Welcome to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast urging you to let it go and don't look back. With nationally acclaimed professional organizer Christine Stone and self-proclaimed hot damn mess radio and TV personality Eden Kendall.
Welcome back to another edition of Uncluttered and Unfiltered. I'm Eden Kendall, a broadcaster of many, many years. With me is Christine Stone of Neatly Designed. You've been at this a minute.
Oh, yeah, for a very long time.
And so today we're actually, and this is something we will do on a regular basis, we have an Ask the Organizer opportunity for you, and it's on our social media if you would like to ask a question to Christine. Today's question that we're going to address a little bit further on into the podcast is about downsizing your home. And these are tips that Christine has and actual just observations from what she's been doing for years that you'll be able to use. It maybe even you're not even moving, but maybe you're just thinking, gosh, I'd like to start doing all of these things now, so when it does happen, I'm ready.
Yes.
That's to me,
the important
that's
thing.
what's important. You don't want to be faced head on with, I have a friend, for example, that they got an opportunity to go to Las Vegas, but they have to live in an apartment for a while, and now they're doing all of these things in a hurry, and it wasn't what they expected. So these are great things to start implementing right away, regardless of where you are in your living situation. But first, let's have a little coffee talk. I say coffee talk because it's funny. My son, who is 24, was watching our video just to help me out with some editing things. And he said, you know what you remind me of? And I said, what? And he said, the Sweaty Balls ladies on Saturday Night Live. That's the one with Alec Baldwin where they're like doing a national public radio show. And they're
so
like,
funny.
Oh, tell us about your balls. We love your balls. But you think we're more like the coffee talk segment.
I think we're like, the coffee talk ladies.
I think so too. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah,
Let me give
amongst
you a subject.
yourselves.
Verklempt.
Yes.
So maybe we're not any of those things. Maybe we just are who we are, which is me, who's a scattered kind of ball of energy, and you're very polished and you're very neat. And
thank you.
Our differences kind of bring us together in the middle, and we love that. So this weekend, when I say this weekend, I mean as of our recording session today, you spent some time taking care of some folks.
Well, anyone over 50 is now, if their parents are alive, we're all dealing with our elderly parents in one way or another, whether it's helping them find assisted living, helping with doctor's appointments, dealing with last minute situations. So, that's what I did.
That was your weekend.
Yeah, that was my weekend. And so nothing really to report other than, like I said in our last podcast, I usually take the weekends to regroup. Unlike you, who did what?
We were at Florida State University's Parents Weekend, which maybe once upon a time Parents Weekend meant touring the library and going to a nice dinner. But Parents Weekend these days is not that. It is maybe having lunch at a sorority or fraternity if your kiddo is in the Greek life, which mine is. And then you tailgate.
Oh, I know.
And if it's a Greek thing, it's fraternity parties.
Yep.
And then you go to the game. And then, it's just a big party where you're seeing your kids in their natural habitat, and they're seeing you the way you once were when you were that age. And for me, it was a little different because I'm a Florida Gator. For those listening around the world, I am a Florida Gator. It is great to be a Florida Gator. I've never put on one shred of garnet and gold, which is the colors for our rival, Florida State University. But my son went to Florida, but our daughter goes to FSU. So I said, and I didn't even decide this until the ride there, I said, we stopped at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I said, I saw a bucket hat, and I said, I really need either sunglasses or a hat today because it's hotter than I thought.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for my daughter. She's a senior. The school has brought her a ton of joy. I am going to wear a hat with her school colors just this once. I felt like it was an out-of-body experience. I'll never do it again. And it wasn't.
You're like my husband. He's a Gator, and he would never.
It wasn't because of the ribbing I got. It wasn't because of the online bullying. I truly felt awkward.
Yeah.
But the experience outside of that part was really eye-opening because like we've talked about before, I cannot hang like I used to be able to.
Yeah, I'm so glad my kids are way, way, way past that point.
Yeah. I mean, we were walking in, picture my husband and I were both 56, and we're elbowing our way through fraternity parties. People are using funnels.
Oh,
and there's
my gosh.
This is a thing I had never seen before, and I can't say that this looks like it could be good for you, and probably it's very unhealthy, but do you remember shotgunning a beer where they would take like a can opener and open the beer can from the side? Okay, they do that with a Red Bull and pour,
oh my God,
I think it's like Jaeger
into
that, and they call it a Y bomb, and then they just drink it backwards like out of the side of the can.
Oh, that makes me nauseous.
Well, yeah. So anyway, there are times where we're happy to be where we are in life.
Absolutely, and that would be one for me. Because that's horrible.
So are we ready for our Ask the Organizer question? Are you ready to listen?
I am ready.
All right, take it away, Marion.
Hi, Eden and Christine. This is Marion from Hamden, Maine. I have a question about downsizing. My husband and I are thinking of selling our house after 28 years of living in a big Victorian.
Wow. And she goes on to say that this is something that, they're really... They're emotional about it, as you can well imagine. Now, Marion has grandkids, so she's looking at lots and lots of memories in all of those walls in that house. So you've seen this many times.
Well, here's the thing. I also downsized, and it was about 9 years ago. And I always understood how my clients felt, but that brought me to a totally different level. And people would say, well, you're an organizer. You should be used to this. I don't think people understand when you are moving out of the house you raised your children in, where, you spent Christmases and memories, and they were 2 years old and now they're 20. It's an emotional, time-consuming move. And it's same with friends of mine whose parents have passed away and they have to sell everything in the house that they grew up in, as well as dealing with the death of a parent. So I can totally understand this, because as we talked about when you're married to a Gator, it was Florida, Georgia weekend, and my husband said, okay, bye, and left me in the house, and I had to finish packing up because the house sold. And all I could do was look around and go, I can't. And it's not that I didn't want to move, because, by the way, I was happy about moving. It was less stress, less square footage. It was a better situation. It wasn't that. It's just you hear the memories and you just kind of relive it. And then, packing everything up. What am I going to do with all this furniture and all these things that won't fit in the space that I am now moving into? And so I saw that firsthand. And so from that point on, I am kind of known as the moving pro, because I really have it down to a science on what you need to do when you're downsizing.
All right, well, let's walk through it and tell some people some tips that are, it's deeper than what you'll hear in this podcast. We only have X amount of time, but let's see what we can cover.
Well, the first thing that you and I discussed is starting early. I see people wait until their house is already sold, and then the people want to close in less than 30 days, and they're like, how's that going to happen? So the minute you think you're downsizing or moving, that's when you start. Even before you put the house on the market, because it gives you the time to not be stressed out and not be, oh my God, what do I do with this? Because that leads to many storage units. I am going to tell you that, because then you're in a last minute decision and you can't make those decisions. So everything ends up in a storage unit, which we will talk about storage units on its own podcast. So that is the first thing. Start early. The second thing is china, silver, and crystal. A lot of younger people don't understand this, but if you're over 40, this is a serious issue. You have your own from when you got married, then you inherited your grandmother's, then you inherited you're constantly getting thrown with those pieces from people you've inherited.
Yes, that is true. That is true. One of the things you said to me, I have my great grandmother's china. Plus I have my own, but I have my great. And you said, listen, take a few pieces, use them as ring holders, some jewelry holders, maybe put one piece here for this and do some things that showcases it and then sell it.
Yes.
Or donate it.
Well, and there's companies out there like replacements.com that they will tell you if they need it, if they do, how much they're willing to give you. And I've used them myself, so I know they're legitimate and I know that they work. So that is one option for a lot of items, including, I call them tchotchkes, meaning the yadros and all those type of items. They also will buy those items. Silverware is silver, so you can even sell your silverware if the market is right for it. And you can sell your silver and gold silverware somewhere that will buy it as well. So it's doing your homework basically on eBay and all these different areas that are so available now that were not available even 5 years ago or 8 years ago.
And silver really lends itself to pulling out a few pieces to keep as a memory. Like, for example, a cake.
Yeah,
a cake server
absolutely.
Or something like that. I mean, I have some of the bigger pieces from my grandmother, but I did, when the market was right, I went in for the silver, for the cash, because first of all, it's not as easy to use. The cleaning, that older silver does get very tarnished.
Yep.
So there's that. So you don't have, in other words, the thing is you can keep some things. You don't have to keep the entire set.
No, and some people, I tell them, if you just want to keep the salad plates and use them just with everyday white plates when you're entertaining or it's a holiday, that looks great too. But if you don't love it, if you don't even like it, if it's taking up tons of space in your house, which I see that a lot, and it's boxed up and never opened, that's when it needs to go. It has to go because it's taking up valuable real estate in your own house. It's taking up living space.
And why are you going to pay movers
to move
to carefully
items?
Move fragile china when you can cash in on it first, if that's indeed what you're willing to do?
Right. And take the money and buy something that you do want to put out and you do want to see and you do want to use. Mm-hmm.
But I do love the idea of taking a few of the pieces and making something special with them. I mean, There's so many ideas out there.
Yes. And hiring an appraiser, because a lot of people have antiques, they have jewelry. And so you want to know, everybody thinks their stuff is so valuable. Everybody does. And I don't care what it is, whether it's baseball cards, Beanie Babies, you name it, they think it's worth thousands of dollars. And then you'll go on eBay or you'll go on a site and you'll look and you'll be like, $1.99 for this Beanie Baby I've been holding on to for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So hire an appraiser, do your homework, and find out, is it really worth holding on to?
Okay. All right.
So
what else you got?
Well, hire a professional organizer or a friend to help you go through everything so it speeds up the process. So never have a family member help, because they are as emotionally invested as you are. Mm-hmm. So the minute you put something to the side, they'll be like, Aunt Mary gave you that. How could you get rid of that? I'll take it. Or I'll give it to your sister, and then your poor sister's getting everything that you didn't want. So it's not really wise to have a family member because they have the emotions invested in it. So have a friend or hire a professional organizer. It will go really, really quickly because they don't allow you the time to stew over every tiny little thing because you're in a time constraint to move.
Okay.
So that is the next thing. Start with one room at a time. People try to do the entire house, whether it's in everyday organizing or they're moving or whatever it is. Start with the guest room. Then move on to the linen closet. Start and then make piles. Have boxes labeled, keep, toss, donate, consign, or Aunt Sally's coming to take this dresser. And I always, with my clients, with myself, huge Post-it note fan to label everything so that when the guy who's coming to pick up all the donations doesn't take Aunt Sally's chest, it'll say Aunt Sally. So it's so important to have everything labeled so everybody knows what they're supposed to be taking, because there'll be a million people in and out of your house, shutting down cable, donations, all all sorts of things. So it's so important to have a system in place for all the items you're donating, consigning, keeping, and also that you're giving to family or friends.
One of the things we did when we moved was we had a giant yard sale, but the rule was if it is on the driveway and it doesn't sell, it does not get to come back into the house.
Absolutely.
Like once it's on the driveway and there's a price tag on it, that means you're willing to part with it. So just say goodbye. We're going to give it away.
And that's why people's garages are always so jam-packed full, because garages have become the new storage units. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got it out of my house. Well, but you can't pull your car into the garage because it's just full from bottom to top of everything that is out of the house. So it's a process. So the other thing is, to make it easier, the minute you know you're going to move, I schedule weekly donation pickups. It's easy to do. You do it online. You can cancel it if you don't need it. But that way, someone's coming to your house. I see more people drive around town with donations that they never drop off. And they just, I was going to, I just never got around to it. So having everything labeled and ready for donation.
I want to marinate in that for a minute. You schedule weekly donation pickups.
Yes.
Then you're under the gun because you don't want these people to show up and have nothing to pick up. You have to get some stuff together every week. You've put yourself into an accountability position.
Well, and like I said, you can always cancel it, but it helps people not have to think of what do I do with all this stuff I need to get rid of.
Yes.
Because that's what's going through everybody's mind. What do I do with all of it? So, books, donate them to a library or a homeless shelter. I mean, there's so many people that need items that you don't need. And so it's always makes you feel good when you're donating and someone else is getting your items.
Okay. Anything else on that list, which is very long?
Well, it's not. No, actually, we're at the end almost.
Are we really?
Yeah, because we really are.
You were so helpful to me. We did the thing too where we downsized, and we've covered in these podcasts in the past about kids' artwork and the photographs and all of the different things like that. So it's cumulative. If you are moving, it would probably be in your best interest to maybe even go back from the beginning and listen to all of our episodes. There aren't even that many yet. But for me, it was really helpful. I had things like sheet music from when my grandmother played the piano, and I think we put some of those even in frames.
Yes, that's what I suggested. Frame them and look at them.
You're not going to learn the piano all of a sudden and start playing, the soundtrack from Broadway musicals all of a sudden. So instead, put them in some frames, and that's what we did. I think that your situation may not be what somebody else's. If you have a Victorian home and you're moving into a much smaller space, you're going to also have things like maybe you really spent a lot of time picking out all of the decorations for the guest room, and it's hard to even think that you're not going to have anywhere for those things. But that's just one of those difficult parts of life.
Downsizing. Yeah. And, I always tell clients, because some people are thrilled to downsize, other people really are sad to leave the place they raised their kids. And I always tell them it's just... look at it as a new chapter in your life. You're starting basically all over. You won't have the responsibilities. You won't have the maintenance and the upkeep. And I can tell you, I stay in touch with a lot of my clients, and not one of them regrets it if they're downsizing and they're empty nesters. It's relief.
Yeah, we don't regret it even for a moment, particularly on days when it's time to mow the lawn or when we're using the community pool and we didn't have to, test the water and do all of that. Now, for your kids, they may have an issue with it. They may not like being told, hey, swing by the house on Saturday, and if you really need it, you better grab it because all bets are off.
But they never do.
They never do.
They
and then they
never,
come at you.
ever do.
Then they come for you, and you're like, sorry.
Yeah, they never do, because I can tell you something about the 20s and 30-somethings. I can't tell you how many clients have asked their kids, do you want this? Do you want that? And they always say no. Always. They don't have the room to store it. They're of a different generation. They're not going to use silver, sterling silver, or your good china that you can only hand wash. They're not going to do it. And so, take a picture of it. I always say, use your phone now that we have the access to phones. Before you put something in storage, take a picture of it. Have a log through your phone. If it's something that you want to take a picture of your kids' artwork and then let it go. You can make albums out of it. There's so much you can do with a phone now that we didn't have 10, 15, 20 years ago.
There are apps on your phone that will take a picture of a photo album and then separate each picture into a different file. PhotoMine is the one that comes to mind. I actually had these great intentions. And, I did a lot of this right before one of the hurricanes, because that's another thing. Having your photos digital takes a lot of stress off if you have to evacuate or
don't
leave
even
anything.
get me started on that.
But you can take a picture and it will literally photograph. If you have 4 pictures on one page, it will take them and make them separate.
I think we're sounding like boomers right now.
You know what? That's probably true. The good news is we have our mugs that say embrace the
and
boom.
we are embracing it. You can scan barcodes now of, containers, put the barcode on, and everything will be in the container that you've scanned. The possibilities are endless, but like I said, just try to avoid the storage unit, because people get them and don't go to them for years. Years. They don't even remember what's in them. So that's my one big
you
tip.
may as well not have it if that's the case.
Right, exactly.
If that's the case. So that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Let's spend the last few minutes talking about you.
Oh, me.
Oh, surprise. So if you are somebody who has, we try to cover a lot of different subjects, but if what really gets to you is the organizing part of it, because some people like to talk about it. I like to talk about it. I don't necessarily
like to
practice it. It's just something I'm tinkering and
Right.
trying to get organized. But your page on Instagram, you're neatly designed.
Oh.
There are so many amazing tips and hints, and it's just, you could scroll through it and just dream of a day when all your dishes are white and when all your cookies are placed in layers in the cookie jar, or when you could one day have clear cabinets. And this is very enjoyable to me to just scroll through it. I'm never doing a lot of these things, but it's very fun for me to see you do it.
Well, one thing I have to say, it's not about perfection, though. Every client's different and everybody has a request. And my job is to make each client happy. So I just love pleasing each and every person. And everybody has different tastes and wants different things. And that's what it's all about.
Right. And like for our family, it's more about knowing where a battery is when we need it than it is about someone coming in our house and being able to see all of our dishes.
Right.
And, everybody's got different levels of
batteries are important when your remote goes out in the middle of the night. Let me tell you.
You got it.
Yep.
You got it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Uncluttered and Unfiltered. I'm Eden with Christine, and we love to hear from you. And there are so many ways that we can do that. So let's go through them. There's Instagram. Of course, there's Christine on Neatly Designed, and there's mine, Eden Kendall, on Air. But we also have Uncluttered and Unfiltered on Instagram. We have a TikTok, and we have a Facebook. We also have a private Facebook group that all you need to do is ask, and we will invite you to join us. And that's where we kind of get a little bit more personal with you, ask you some questions, and we'd love to have you in our community, because we like to say our show is for everybody. But if you're 50 and over, you have found your people. So until next time, we invite you to let it go.
And don't look back.